Hey everyone, this is Raj from the ASEAN Small Business Team. With me here is our Firepower 1010. This is a desktop-sized next-generation firewall that packs a punch. It's got 8 gigabit Ethernet ports, a management port, a serial console port, and a micro USB port that can be used for console access as well. With up to 900 megabytes of throughput, when you have all the features enabled, including IPS and malware protection. In this video, I want to share with you how easy it is to get started with an initial configuration, activating the license, and some security best practices fit for small businesses.
Hey everyone, I'd like to begin by explaining a little bit about the ports at the back of the Firepower 1010E. We have the first port here, Ethernet 1.1, which is our outside interface to which you'd connect to a modem or router, which would then connect you out to the internet. Ports 2 to 8 are inside interfaces or ports that would connect to your local area network, to which you may connect laptops or desktops, any kind of endpoint device. We also have a management port here and 2 console ports. To begin, I would ask you to connect to one of the ports from between 2 to 8, which is in the inside interface. You would then receive an IP address from the 192.168.95.0/24 address pool, upon which you would then be able to access the management web interface on https://192.168.95.1. Once we've done that, we can then begin to configure the appliance. So the next thing we want to look at is the graphical user interface. So to access the interface, it's https://192.168.95.1. When you're logging in for the first time, the username is admin and the password is capital A admin123. Upon logging in for the first time, you will need to accept the end user license agreement and then change your password. So use your current password, which is a capital A admin123, and then you may create your own password as long as it matches one of the profiles down here. Now, so when you first connect to the box, you'll see that has a little representation of what's happening here in your box. So I'm connected to the management interface. I do have some things connected to port 1.1 and to port 7 as well. But this is the wizard when you begin on your connecting to your firewall. So you'll have a very basic rule that says trust outbound traffic. So anything coming from within your network, your local network going out, it's going to be trusted and block everything else. So this is good to begin with. So what I'm going to say is on port Ethernet 1.1, which is my outside interface connecting to my router, my ISP is set up to give me an IP address directly. So I'm going to use using the HCP, and I'm going to click next. So it typically takes about 2 to 3 minutes for the changes to be applied. And the next thing that it's going to ask you is to set your time. So I'm based in Asia, so I'm just going to set it to a Malaysian time zone. We're about +8. I'm going to use the default NTP servers, which are the Cisco servers. And as you can see here now, my port 1.1 is connected to the outside via my router. It has connectivity to a DNS server. I'm now connecting to an NTP server, and everything else is green and everything else is orange, as what I expect. So I want to click save here. Next thing it's going to ask me is to register with Cisco Smart Software Manager. So this is the portal from where your licenses get deposited and you go and claim it from. But for this purpose, I'm just going to begin first with a 90-day evaluation period, and we'll register the device later on. So now that my device is set up for a 90-day trial, it's asking me whether I want to manage this with CDO, which is our Cisco Defense Orchestrator, but I'm going to say that we're going to manage this as a standalone device, and I'll be managing the interfaces and the policies myself. So this is what it looks like upon first logging in and setting yourself up. So that probably took about 5 minutes to do. So you began with changing your password. You then configured your outside interface to connect to your WAN, your ISP. You set up an NTP server, and you're using a 90-day free license. So this is what it looks like now. So in the next step, I'm going to show you how to license the Firepower 1010. The first thing you want to do is go to software.cisco.com and log in with your account. So as a partner, you should be having your own smart account. Should you not, please do reach out to your distributor and ask them about this. And as a customer, you too should have your own smart account from where the licenses will be consumed from. So please do speak to your partner or your distributor and they can help you get this configured. So to find the licenses that you have purchased upon purchasing the Firepower 1010, they'll be found in the Smart Software Manager. So if you click on Manage Licenses, and then under the Inventory and under Licenses, your licenses that you have purchased will be available here. So it'll say available to use, meaning that it's not been consumed yet until you have registered this device with your smart account, upon which these devices will then be consumed, and it'll then be under the in-use column. You'll have ones here. So to get started, if we go back to the Firepower, under the bottom here, we have Smart License. So the first thing I'm going to do is register the device. So if I click on Register Device, what it's going to ask me to do is get a token from the Smart Account Manager. So if I go back to the Smart Account under General, I'm going to generate a new token here. I'm just going to say Firepower 1010. Maximum number of users. This is just for myself, so I'm just going to put 1 here. I'm going to create that token. So now that the token's been created, I'm going to go ahead and copy that. Go back to the dashboard. And you can choose a region, whichever region you're in. So since we're in APJC, we're going to be in APJ. And then I'm gonna register this device. So it takes usually about a minute to complete. So if we go back, you'll see that it's starting to do its thing now. It's now connecting and getting the license. You'll see now that we are connected. It has detected that we have sufficient licenses. So I'm gonna go ahead and enable all the licenses. So you'll note that the base license has been applied, which has the base firewall capabilities, application visibility and control. So I'm going to enable threat, malware, and URL licenses. So after giving it a moment, you'll realize that they've all turned green and you'll see them as enabled status. Going back to the software manager, the Smart Account Software Manager, you'll realize under licenses now that those licenses are all in use. So we have now successfully licensed the firewall. That was really easy to do, and we can now get started with the next thing, which is configuring the updates so that it has the latest updates, and then we'll start doing some basic configurations. Next thing I'm going to do is configure the updates. You'll see that some of it already has been updated automatically. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to set some rules on when it's going to update. So for the IPS, the intrusion, I'm going to set it to update automatically at 3 AM every Tuesday. I'm going to ask it to also deploy automatically. For the security intelligence feeds, I would like this to be done hourly because so we know that we're getting all the latest updates from Talus. So I'm going to set that up. For the VDD, I'm going to configure that. So that is done weekly as well. I'm going to say Wednesday for this one. so that it doesn't conflict with the intrusion rule. And the geolocation, I can just set this up to be daily as well, maybe at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. I'm just going to save that. So once I've saved all that, the next thing I want to do is deploy all those changes. So I'm just going to go ahead and click deploy now. So if you go to task queue, you'll see that everything that I've just set up is now queued up to run at its appropriate time. So that's how you set up the updates and so that we get to receive the latest security updates and all the other signature definitions, etc. Hey everyone, so the next thing we want to be looking at is setting up the security policies. To do that, we'll head up to the policies tab and we'll go to security intelligence first. So we're going to enable security intelligence. That means that all the Cisco Talus threat intelligence, we're going to use that information to start blocking known bad domains, bad IP addresses, and to do that under the block category, we've got a couple of categories here that we have categorized, or Cisco Talus threat intelligence team have categorized, so we can click on all of these options here and say that if the IP, the domain has been classified as any of these threats, it's going to drop the connection. The next thing we're going to look at is the NAT. So we can see here that there's already a NAT rule on by default, and all it's doing is translating the traffic coming from the inside, which is your LAN network, and anything going to the outside, which would be the internet. In most cases, this default rule will probably be good enough and you wouldn't need to add anything else here. Next is the access control. Once again, we've got a default rule here that is saying that any traffic from the inside zone, from the LAN going out to the internet is all trusted. But what we're going to do is change this, and we're going to make this an allow. So as opposed to saying that if all the traffic is trusted, we're going to say allow it, but also scan for any intrusions. And the option we're going to choose here is the balanced security and connectivity. And then under the file policy, we're going to say block malware. So it's going to scan all the file types and ensure that, that there's no malware hiding in any of those files. The next thing we want to do is, should you need to create a policy that particularly blocks something, we can add a policy up here. So for this example, we're going to say block social networking. Set up a block policy. The source will be anything coming from the LAN network and anything going out to the internet. And then under URLs, there'll be a category here for social networking. So anything that the Talus team has categorized as social networking, which could be things like X or Facebook or Instagram, anything there would be blocked here. So we can go ahead and add that. What we want to do next is actually move this to the top right, because the way this works is that the policy on top gets the higher preference. So we want to be making sure that everything is blocked before we allow it. So we're saying that we want to block social networking before we allow it. To end, we just need to deploy this. So we hit the deploy button on top and enable the deploy now. So this will typically take a couple of minutes, and you can let it go in the background, and once this orange dot here is gone, that means the policy has been deployed.